the other side?
There's a back there.
Holy cow.
The word for breath and wind is the same word for spirit in many languages. In Persian poetry, this word is nafas.
Hi, welcome to Texas Nafas. I'm Rick Williams.
Stupid excited.
Behind the camera is Farid Mohammadi. He's also the producer. With us today is Janet Kuypers, who will be reading poetry, and we'll get right to it. Janet?
Hi, and thank you, and I'm honored to be here. First poem I'd like to read from you is from the book Memes of Instagram, Twitter poetry. Last poem in the book, and it is called Our Color, Our Gender, Our Creed.
I've had 3 Memes books. That's the last
There's
one.
a house inside of me. It's a house with a rich history, brimming with the knowledge of how our souls have flourished and how it could all be so quickly taken away. There's a house inside of me. It's had to shut down, to hide everything away, because those who didn't look like me decided that I was nothing and treated me accordingly. There's a house inside of me. Its pulse has an infectious rhythm that we've had to stifle to hide from your generic white bread world, for we only let ourselves out when we're alone to save us from your madness. There's a house inside of me. I've hidden it away. I've sealed it up and placed it deep within, brimming with my history and my future. And I don't let it out when people can't think of me as human. There is a house inside of me. I throw boards over the windows to save myself from your storm. With your wrath, I've learned to not fight back, only because my captor won't listen. There is a house inside of me, and this house will stand strong even after you have raped me, beaten me, tortured me, tried to kill me, treated me as nothing. But you were so wrong. There is a house inside of me, and what you don't realize is that this house will outlast yours. Trust me. If your house was built on distrust and such blatant disrespect, then your house is bound to collapse. Because after all this time, and after my wanting to fight, I have learned that passive resistance is only a part of my story. Because in these struggles, I have gained a wisdom and a connection that is beyond this house that is inside of me, beyond this sharing, this inquisitive mentality. So I want you to remember, this house is a symbol for all of those like me, and for those not like me too. Because I have a dream that everyone who has suffered like this, and even those who have not, should share their stories with all of the world, no matter our color, our gender, our creed. This is my dream, because this is how we truly grow.
So, the performative aspects of this, do you memorize poems?
Some I have because I've known them, performed them enough. Some I know quite by heart. Oftentimes, because I've been writing so much, in fact, this year I decided to write a poem a day for every day of the year, which was why one of the books that this last poem was also in is every event of the year. This is volume 1, January through June, because that was written on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I said it was such a good poem, I had to put it in both of these books. So because I've got so much material, it is likely that I'm not going to have everything memorized.
Right.
But when I get used to reading pieces and comfortable with them enough, they become so second nature to me that I could just rattle them off.
How old is this poem?
This poem I wrote on Martin Luther King Jr. Day this year, January 20th, thereabouts, whatever it was, for 2019. I can tell you if I wanted to look it up in the table of contents what day it was written, but I'm not going to. But it was in January 2019 when that one was.
So it's obviously a political poem as well as a personal poem. The whole idea of houses and the distance, the house is both safe and also separate from this house and that house and that house. So it's a distancing device even as it brings you closer.
It was bringing in the notion of a place where people will come together, or something where you keep all your treasured valuables, or a place that you don't feel safe. I've had to board it up and hide it away, or I put boards over it because of your storm.
Well, you were a rape
acquaintance workshop facilitator.
Yeah.
And that's one of the lines I threw in there too, because I was just thinking, okay, you've done all of these horrific things to me, us, or a people. And yes, I worked for years as an acquaintance rape workshop facilitator, so a lot of my past poems would relate to women's issues, or sexism, or violence against women, or rape in general.
trauma.
A lot of
is
it
a trauma.
from trauma from it. It was actually quite spooky and scary, because people would know that was what I had done, and they're like, oh, by the way, hi, I know that you did this. Please let me share with you my story of how I was raped when I was 16, or which is an additional burden beyond what, you know, if something had happened like that to me or not. You're just then taking in a bunch of people's stories, and
And
you
they
don't
become
know
part of
what
it.
to do with that. And
So the poetry is a way of dealing with other people's traumas as well as your own.
Exactly.
Underneath.
I know that you don't know what poems I would like to read, but it's really kind of funny that the next poem I wanted to share was about dealing with the rape issue. It's really funny that just happened to stumble into that one. This is a poem from the first book I had ever published through Scars Publications, called Hope Chests in the Attic. And the poem is called The Burning. I take the final swig of vodka, feel it burn its way down my throat, hiss at it scorching my tongue, then reach for that bottle to pour myself another. I think of how my tonsils scream every time I let the alcohol rape me. And then I look down at my hands, shaking, holding that glass of poison. I think of how these were the hands that should have pushed you away from me, but didn't. And I keep wondering why I took your hell, I took your poison. I remember how you burned your way through me. You corrupted me from the inside out, and I kept coming back. I let you infect me. I know you'll burn a hole right through me. I hated it. And now I have to rid myself of you, and my escape is flowing between the ice cubes and the glass nestled in my palm. But I have to drink more. The burning doesn't last as long as you do.
So you've not done plays?
No, although the funny thing is I wrote one short story years ago called Crazy. And it's just a monologue about a person that's in a psych ward after violent acts, and I did that as I'm a Chicagoan, and before I took over an open mic, they had said, oh, sometimes a feature doesn't show up if you want a last minute thing, and I stumble in, and I play out this role, and I read this short story as a feature, and they're like, this is the best feature I've ever heard from you ever. And I actually also did it once here, and people were stunned and thrilled with it. But I haven't written long plays. No, I haven't. I guess I am an actor by definition of how I will portray roles by my readings and the like, but I have not gone into producing plays or anything of the nature.
Why?
Too much to do.
I think I appreciate the idea of a shortness with a statement in a poem instead of coming up with really long pieces.
So that's why poetry as opposed to
I think
plays.
so. I wrote a novel once. I'd written 3 chapters, and then I was almost killed in an auto accident, and I had to put my life back together, which meant that was on hold. You know, I'm going to forget that novel, and after a while I'm like, I should get back to it. And it's an epic. It's like 600 pages. It's way too long. But I did try it, so.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, because I know you were in an accident, and the whole idea of whether an accident or rape, which is another kind of
Different
accident.
kinds of traumas, yeah.
Different kind of trauma, also a different kind of accident,
Yeah.
because it happens to you. And to a certain extent, you're the driver of the car, as it were. You're also the body that gets hit by another body in a violent act.
In every accident, there are 3 crashes.
Yes.
The car into the car, your body organs into the skin, and then you hitting the. It's really kind of frightening to learn those things when after you go through this. It's jostling how much you can learn while trying to keep yourself sane and wrap your head around everything that's happened to you.
So it's okay. Here, we have an accident poem.
It is funny. He's asking these things in an order of the
order. I wanted to not have something
poems
that horrific included in my collection.
But he asked questions leading into the order that I
poem I was going to read was a poem that doesn't relate to the accident, but I wrote it days before the accident. When I say this to people,
Prescient.
when I say this to people, and in fact, when I was unconscious in the hospital, this is about a relationship. Somebody left an open journal, and I said, please write a message, because she's in a coma. She can't respond. He's like, you just wrote a poem called Fantastic Car Crash. This is supposed to be me in the hospital, not you, which it was just spooky.
But in the poem, nobody hurts.
But in a
they all just walk
way,
away and everything's fine.
So
like most accidents you see.
Collection of interviews, and if you want to know all sorts of weird things about me, you can get this little book called In Depth, and this is in it, and it's called Fantastic Car Crash. And our life is one big road trip now, when we set the cruise control and make our way down the expressway. And most of the time when we're driving, we're in a straight line, and the scenery blurs, there's nothing to see. But I know it's inside of you, and I know what you're made of. There's no such thing as a calm with you. Everything shatters with you, you know. It's a spectacular explosion. I try to duck and cover as metal flies through the air. And every time you leave the scene of the accident, I'm left picking up the shards of glass from the broken windows. You know, the glass breaks into such tiny little pieces. They look like ice. It takes so long to pick up the pieces, and even though I'm careful, I'm still picking up the pieces, and I'm still on my knees, and the glass cuts into my hands, and the blood drips down into the streets. Think of it as my contribution to this fantastic car crash that is you, that is me, that is us, as I pull the glass from my hands and wave my hand to the line of traffic. Go on. Keep driving. This happens all the time. There's nothing to see here.
Happens all the time. So when did poetry happen to you?
First poem I ever wrote, I was 9 for a class. And it's one of the few that I will admit to that rhymes.
Yes.
And it was fun, and I tried to continue writing in high school and tried to rhyme more, but I found that by doing that I was not able to get a message across because I was working too hard on trying to come up with a rhyme to match lines. And then when I would go off in college and then off on my own, I'd let that be a sounding board, in a manner of speaking, for going through the travails of life and whatever new experiences you have. So it's always been there, yeah.
Well, a 9-year-old, I wouldn't imagine, would have issues with crashing into you.
No traumas there in a 9-year-old.
So but poetry at some point became a way for you to deal with those travails.
This is true, exactly. I think that is the case for most writers, and probably particularly poets, because a lot of times people have issues and problems with one thing or another, and you're just told to sweep it under the rug and bottle it up and don't let it out, and you'll be fine if you just shut up and not think about things and not allow yourself to fully live. And when you have to do that, sometimes the only way you can get it out of your system or be able to cognitively appropriately process everything is by writing it down. I don't have any poems to share about the passing of my mother, but I was alone with my father for weeks right after she died, and he was having it worse than me.
I can't say this to him.
So I couldn't say anything to him, so what did I do? I typed like mad because what else could I do? You know, that was all I could think of, so that was all I could think of.
So the world is complacent in many ways. It's also very confrontational in many ways. And the personal and the political, I don't feel any overt political philosophy in your work, although feminism obviously is, some people consider that.
This is true, very true. And I was just thinking that the next poem that I have on my list
Happens
of
to
reading is a politically argumentative piece about a philosophy.
It's not just planned.
You would think that. We totally didn't.
But I have so many books that I wanted to share to get a breath of all of the things that I've done, and it just happens, if that is cool with you. This is a book called Close Cover Before Striking. Wow. Now, it could be a match book, or it could just be emotionally having to cope with things. This is excerpts of a longer poem called Everything Was Alive and Dying. I had a dream the other night. I walked out of a city to a forest, and there were neatly paved bicycle paths and trash cans every 50 feet, and trash every 10. And as I walked, there was a stray cat. She still had a little neon collar on with a little bell. As she walked a few feet, stretched her front paws. Oh, she looked so darling. And then in my dream, she walked right up to me and she said, "Thank you." And I said, "For what?" And she just looked at me for a moment. Her little ears were standing straight up. And she said, "In some countries, I'm considered a delicacy." And I said, "How do you know of these things?" And she said, "When somebody eats one of you, word gets around." And then she just looked at me for a moment. And she said, "And in some countries, the cow is sacred. Wouldn't they love to see how you humans prepare them for slaughter? How you hang them upside down and slit their throats so their still beating hearts will drain out all the blood for you?" She said, "Isn't it funny how arbitrary your decision to eat meat is?" And I said, "Don't put me in that category. I don't eat meat." And she said, "I know." And then I woke up in a sweat. So tell me, Ted, Canadian, Cuban, Cruz. So tell me, Nancy, my eyes are pried open, Pelosi. So tell me, Mitch, the slowest turtle, McConnell. So tell me, Lion Hillary Clinton. So tell me, Entertainer-in-Chief Donald Trump. So tell me, Barack Hussein Obama. If you woke up from that dream, would you be in a sweat too? Because everything is linked here. We destroy our animals so we can be wasteful and violent. We destroy our planet. We destroy our earth. We even destroy our air. We wreak havoc on the soil, on the atmosphere. We dump our wastes into our lakes. We pump aerosol cans and exhaust fumes. And you think I'm extreme? And I'm just beginning to think that we just keep doing it because we don't know how to stop. And deep inside, we feel the pain of all that we've killed, and we try to control it by popping a chemical-filled painkiller. You know, we live through the guilt by taking caffeine, nicotine, morphine, and we keep ourselves thin with saccharin, and we keep ourselves sane with our alcohol poisoning. But the thing is, in the wild, you have no power over anyone else. Now that we're civilized, we create our own wild. And maybe when we have all this power, the only choice we have is to destroy ourselves. And so we do. I feel like I should have a mic to drop after I say that. We have to straighten that one.
Do you ever do videos?
I do videos of readings when I go to places, and when I was in Chicago and I ran a poetry open mic, I taped the entire thing, as well as features, and I had a podcast for it as well. I asked my husband, the amazing computer guru geek, I said, "Do you have any way of knowing? Yeah, put up a poetry podcast every week. Does anybody actually look at it?" And I said, "Can you figure that?" And he's like, "All right, let me look into this." And he's like, "Well, once I get rid of spammers, I would say one is downloaded every 90 minutes. I mean, like 24/7, every hour and a half." I'm like, "Really?" I mean, like, not many people are actually downloading this. So it was
That's
something to do for that. I've only done one poem video for one of my poems, which I'm not going to read for you here, but I usually am just busy being on stage when running the open mic in Chicago, or I have an open mic here on the first Sundays every month at Recycled Reads.
Running two literary magazines.
Because, you know, sometimes you need to get your poetic license, so come on over.
Right. Well, as I like to, you know, whether or not somebody gets, we all want to have our poetry read, but I like to say, like I say about Nazis, I don't fight Nazis because I think I might win. I fight Nazis because they're Nazis. So you write poetry because you write poetry.
Because I write poetry.
Let's hear another one.
Okay, then why don't I pull out from this poetry collection book, this one's a nice sweet one. It's called Partial Nudity. No, I am clothed in this. It just looks impressively funny.
I was jumping in the hotel bed.
This is a collection book called Partial Nudity, and this poem's called Us Actually Touching.
All the wig photos.
I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. And I can't imagine it, but maybe because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. I wonder if this is a why. When I see you and when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter. Because I want to defy the laws of gravity and feel that connection to you as long as I possibly can. Because this might be why, whenever we embrace, I want my face at your neck so that I can inhale you deeply and I can breathe you in. Because I want to experience you with all of my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch.
So
it's not all angry about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, now we're getting into quantum physics, and you mentioned dreams earlier. So, yeah, the idea that there's no there. So I heard you earlier say that there's a science book that you have.
I was looking for a challenge when I was writing, and apparently this year it was for writing a poem a day, which is a fun challenge. A few years back, I'm like, I'd like to find something to tackle. And I thought, why don't I go the science route and try to write a poem, which I did, for every element of the periodic table.
Back when they didn't all have names.
So for a year, every feature I did in Chicago was all periodic table poems. And yeah, I kept on that science route, I guess, with that, but that was a fun thing to do. You're seeing it in my hand, you're seeing the periodic table of poetry. I originally started my schooling in computer science engineering, and I said, I loved math, and you're like, what? You're kidding me. And I ended up switching over to go into writing, into
journalism.
News editorial journalism, where I focus on design, which is why I'm designing books
University
now.
of Illinois.
But there was a bonus poem in here.
They're best school in the country for both
number
fields.
99, which is Einsteinium. So the bonus poem, the bonus poem is Beauty in the Eyes of Einstein. I heard NASA scientists say that Einstein dismissed some of his theories, even some theories we may know all too well. But Einstein didn't like some of his theories because he thought they weren't beautiful. And I thought, what is beauty? Is it the geomagnetic aberrations of the aurora borealis dancing along the horizon in the Arctic Circle? Is it the way you look at me with those gorgeous doe eyes when we've been apart so long? Is it the scattered collisions from Comet Shoemaker leading 9 into the planet Jupiter? Is it what I feel when your arms are finally around me and I don't want to open my eyes and I never want to let go? Is it the eternally changing wisps of volcanic trails in the Saturn Moon Titan's atmosphere? Is it the way that listening to the music you make fills me with such energy? Is it the converting matter into pure energy with just the right formula? Scientists believed the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all art and science. So, am I driven to look up at the stars in the night sky, to see stars from billions of years ago, to fall in love every night? Einstein reminds us, we are all ruled in what we do by impulse. So, is it how on impulse I move a bit closer to you so I can feel the heat from your body so close to mine? We ask, what is beauty? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it makes me wonder.
So I listened to something the other day about the hot-cold empathy gap. So our cold logic can make decisions about what we will do in a certain situation. Our hot body in that actual situation often makes very different decisions regarding that. So how many personalities do you write from?
Wow. People would make jokes that I'm born in June, and they say, you're a Gemini. And I'm like, no, I'm not a Gemini. I'm a Cancer, but I'm right in the cusp. So I might have a couple different stories inside of me. And it is very easy when you go through so many different things in life to take on different personas. If you were working, or if you were in a relationship, or being a parent, or being the child, or a family member, or hanging out with your best friends, whatnot. You always have different roles. So it's easy to find different ones to slip into for whatever mood suits for the piece.
Well, let's hear one more before we go.
One more. I'm thinking a long one, short one. No, I should give you my happy short one for the evening.
Yes.
Sure. This is from the book, Contents Under Pressure.
Contents Under Pressure.
And it is called, And I'm Wondering. I'm wondering if there's something chemical that brings people together, something that brings people to their knees, something that sucks them in. And I'm wondering if you're sensing what I'm sensing. Is it just me? Am I making it all up in my head? Or when I glance up and I catch your eyes, well, are you actually staring at me? And I'm wondering if we could work out this time, if we'd have one of those relationships that no one ever does, because we know we'll always be in love. And I'm wondering if you find my neurotic pet peeves charming, like how I hate it when somebody touches my belly because I'm so self-conscious. And I'm wondering why you had to tell me when we happened to be sitting next to each other that the fact that our legs were almost touching was making your heart race. And I'm wondering why I felt the need to take your cigarette and inhale, exhale, while the filter was still warm from your lips, there just seconds before. And I'm wondering if a year or two from now, after we've been going out and should have gotten to that point where we're bored with each other and sunk into that comfortable rut, well, if you saw me making macaroni and cheese in the kitchen using margarine and water because I don't have any milk, and I've got my hair pulled back and strands are falling into my face, and I'm wearing one of those button-down denim shirts and nothing else, well, what I'm wondering is if you would see me like this and still think I was sexy. Or when I glance up and I catch your eyes from across the room, or when I see your eyes dart away, when I feel this chemical reaction, well, what I'm wondering is, do you feel it too?
So, Janet Kuypers, where can we find you on the interweb?
On the interwebs, Janet Kuypers, Kuypers. You can just search for me on Amazon. You will find all of these books because I run 2 literary magazines and there are books coming out all the time. Find my name online or what I run with Scars Publications, which is Scars, SCARS.TV. And you can find everything out about all those things, including my writing.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. You've been watching Texas Nafas with Janet Kuypers. I'm Rick Williams. Your guest host behind the camera is Fareed Mohammadi. You can catch this action on channel 16 or 10 at the first day of the month on about 9:30.
Right now.
If you don't know how to get there, go to texasnafas.org or call Access TV in Austin. Thanks. See ya.
That's awesome.
This project is funded and supported in part by the
I was on
City of
TV for a half
Austin
hour.
Economic Development
That's pretty
Department,
cool.
Cultural
I'm sorry,
Arts
that just
Division,
is.
believing
Sorry.
in investment in the arts as
Ugh.
an investment in Austin's future. Visit Austin
It's cool to
at
say you've got a whole
nowplayaustin.com.
half-hour show dedicated to interviewing you and reading poetry. I mean, I've read poems on television before, but I've never had a whole show, so that's kind of cool. Bye.